Let's go. Let's go get the camera. Hello, hello. All right. I'm gonna prep the. I'm gonna prep the portfolios. Mm. That's here. Let's do Melissa if she joins today. Um, let's prep them all, I guess. Let's get Eric, Pelayo, Anya, and Leonardo. Just a moment. Obviously, we start in a bit. Melissa goes here. That's good. And then let me get my Discord over there. Hello, hello. Very welcome. Whoa. Hope that wasn't too bad. That was Diana. Well, I mean, again, we shouldn't be saying names. Welcome, welcome. This must be wrong. It says 4 viewers. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count like 6, 7, and now it goes to 19. All right. Yeah, this is buggy as a platform, I guess. Um, why don't we go with Leonardo first? Because I can see that he was on the stream early. Back to 4. That's pretty crazy. Your counter says 20. Yeah, I mean my counter says 4. And then the other counter also says 4, and now it says 21. So it's kind of buggy. Um, let's do. Nice to see you too. Shockingly, counting is genuinely hard for massive platforms. I'm not very surprised. Um, let's do some sort of random. Well, I mean, we could do a random list of priorities, or let's see, that was Control 3. There you go. I got to get used to this. Or let's just review the portfolios in order as they were submitted. First one was Melissa. If Melissa is here, because like I would prefer to review portfolios from people who are here. Actually, the way we're gonna do it is obviously I know Leonardo is here. I don't know who else is here, so I'll just review Leonardo, and then like if like you guys are here, like Angel, Eric, Pelayo, Anya, or Melissa, you can let me know. Like, hey, I'm also here, and I want my portfolio reviewed. But that's going to happen in a bit. How's everyone doing today? Okay, Anya is here too, so let's get Anya right there. Andrew still working. Yeah, I know how it is at this time. Today feels like a day off from the past few busy weeks. Not for me, unfortunately. Oof, Ginny, how are you doing? I mean, you wanted to be there. Hey, Nicola, how's it going? Um, do you want your portfolio reviewed? Also, Ayush sent his. Let's add it to the queue. I'm going to take my time, okay? This isn't going to be a speed run on reviewing portfolios. Okay, this was like last week. Let's keep it here. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we can use the examples. This was like the example for funneling, um, social media to portfolio. All right. This was the big, medium, small complexity thingy. Like, let's organize that. Keep it over there. How is sound? Sound good and everything? Like, should we get going? And then this thing with, all right, I think we can keep this around for sure. Cool. Cool. Sound is great. Perfect. How's the resolution? Um, you should be able to get 1080p now. This was a thing last week. People were, you know, were not being able to get the good resolution, but now it should be possible. Good. That's great. Why don't we get going? Think. Let's just get the flow of it. How's the mentorship group going? Really good. I'm very happy. Yes, very good. Ayushi's here, so let's get him third. Very good. I'm happy. Things are going well. The usual at the beginning, everybody's, including myself, having, to work a little extra hard to understand the rules, how we collaborate with each other and stuff like that. But like nothing out of the ordinary. So, yeah. All right, let's get going. So, Leonardo, I mean, needless to say, you have a great portfolio. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna just like, do you have any preference, by the way? Like, what's the camera? What happened? We don't see you. Oh my God. Oh yeah. What, do you want to see me? My face, all of it. Um. Anyways, what do you have any preference on what you need reviewing? Like, what's your insecurity? What's your question? What's your, what do you want to see here? Face review. What is it that you want to understand? Okay, so let's read your Discord message and let's get it on Excalibur so that we can build from it. I can do this. Come on. One of the reasons I would like to receive feedback is because after my recent layoff, I'm struggling finding another job in a studio with this portfolio. I can't even get them to call me for a first interview. I'm getting by with freelance work, but it's not what I'm looking for. So a fresh opinion would help me understand what studios are looking for nowadays. It seems that 4 years ago it was easy due to pandemic, but now I'm finding it harder to attract the interest of studios. I mean, everybody's in the same boat right now. It's not as well, we pretty much as artists, in a way, it feels like we lost our potential for, let's say, we lost our negotiation power in a way. There's a lot of us, and it's very difficult to compete. Like, there's a lot of competition. Um, so that being said, though, yeah, let's take a look. So this is good because you're surviving, and sometimes this is what you need to survive. So what are studios looking for nowadays? I mean, I think they're probably looking for similar things. You have a good portfolio of full-fledged environments. I am I am kind of confused by your presentation. The first thing I would do is put your strongest pieces first. I think right now um, your portfolio is probably telling me that you want to be an environment artist. Obviously, as an environment artist, you're gonna be good with doing props, other stuff like that. Um, I wouldn't erase pieces. I wouldn't start with erasing. I would start with reorganizing. So Why don't we do this live? Why don't you open your ArtStation, and you go to your portfolio edit options, and you start moving. If you select your cards and you move them around, you can reorganize the order of these pieces. Let's see. This is good work. This is obviously it's 4 years old, but it is good work. So the first thing I would do, is this the same? No, this is a different one. I see. So like, okay. We're gonna do good things today. The first thing that I understand when I see this piece is that you're not presenting a portfolio, you're presenting some sort of breakdown. Okay, so naturally I'm not going to be inclined to look at this piece. Because if I'm a recruiter, I'm going to want to see breakdowns, okay? But in a way, this looks like it doesn't have a piece attached to it. So you pretty much mix the two pieces together, which is okay. But I would probably put this picture last, and showcase the environment work first. Then when you start to do breakdowns, you would do this, okay? Your game starts this breakdown, and then you would start to do your video breakdowns like you did here, or maybe even get that image with the link at the very bottom. So this, I think you have a strong portfolio. It's just difficult to read. It's kind of messy. Based on dates tells me nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, we have this conception that what we did in the past is going to be worse than what we did in the present, or what we do in the present, sorry. I don't agree with this, okay? I have pieces that I did a year ago that are better than the ones I'm doing now, just because of being more ambitious, or some things like this. So the first thing I would do is have what you think are your strongest pieces. The first three should be your strongest pieces. I think you are using your portfolio, your ArtStation, as a mix of a social media, like an attention grabbing type of thing, and also a portfolio. Okay, so for example, here, I'm not seeing a piece. I'm seeing, yeah, a study. It's a good study. I saw this actually. I'm not sure if I saw this on ArtStation, on Twitter. Somebody maybe reposted it, but this is a great study. I'm not sure if I would call it a study. I think like you have many problems. Let's start to break them down. The first thing that I'm seeing is, let's not organize them in any particular order yet, but one of the things I'm seeing is muddiness, so difficult to read. Social media mixed with portfolio. This is the thumbnails, and I'm seeing bad organization, which is pretty much the muddiness. So let's go with that. So the first thing, how do we solve this muddiness? Organize, so order. So Leonardo, can you do this with me here? Can you go into your ArtStation and like move cards around, and let's start moving those works. And in here, like what I would like to see is something like this. First your environment work, then your props. And the way we're gonna do this, I don't care about personal or professional. Okay, the way we're gonna order this is, let's do without looking too much. Okay, let's start this. So I'm going to take my time, okay? Because I think that when we take our time, things are good. So I want your thumbnails. Okay. Can I copy this image? That's too long. Okay, I'll do crops. So one, and then I'm gonna get, that's gonna be really, really slow. I'm sure everybody's gonna be like, Yeah, not gonna want to see that. So let's do this live instead. Yeah, like I said. So I would do some sort of color gradient. So you have your warm pieces that should go together. I think you have your 3 cold pieces that should go together, and you have nice intermediary sort of colors. Let me take a look at the decagon work. So this is environment assets I'm seeing. Okay, that's very good. Like I'm not even gonna start doing the quality like review because I think your quality is really great. So I'm not gonna get there. I think it's just about readability with you. I feel a little bit of anxiety when I get in your portfolio. So I think your first piece is gonna be this one. Then you're gonna go here. So that's gonna be your second piece. And let's try this as an experiment. Then let's do this as a third piece, even if it's old. Let's do this as the fourth one, again, even if it's old. Let's go then and do this one as the fifth one. 5. Let's do 6 here. Maybe 7. Oops, sorry. And 8. Okay, and then your ninth piece could be this one, which is like a little bit more green, and I haven't seen it. I think you're doing a good job of showcasing sculpts here. Like your quality is great. I don't have a problem with this. Like I wouldn't get into that. I don't think that is a problem at all. And then that's going to be your 10th piece. So let's try doing that. So I'm going to leave this here for a moment. Just so that you can read this. Let's log. And let's put these in red so that you can see those. Maybe, I don't know, whatever color, anything works. Let me know when you've done this. Like we should already be seeing some of these. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so already that is a good start. Yep. In the meantime, well, let's just be patient. If we do 2-3 portfolios, I think it's good. Next week we can do a couple more. But I think this one's gonna be the longest because it has the most amount of work too. Okay. Yep, I think it will be worth it. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm trying to create some sort of gradient. So pretty much we're going from cold, so to intermediate, to warmer, but it has also some cool tones, to completely warm, and then from there just transitioning to something like a bit more pastel. Okay, so let's keep it there. So now your work, I think, has a level of cohesion. Like that gradient made it look a lot cleaner. Do we have a before and after? Yes, we do. It's this. So let's take a look at the before and after now. So now this feels easy to look at, while as before, in a way, it was just a little bit convoluted. It still is convoluted, but we solved a little bit of that muddiness. Now, I can see a theme here. If I look on the up row, I can obviously see that, well, this should be done on your all tab. Yeah, ArtStation is doing weird things today. But anyways, I would do this on your all tab, but pretty much like you can do that by yourself with your own intention, not so much mine. And try to find this sort of cohesion. In here, we can see 3 environments that kind of rely on hard surface. Then, you know, this kind of breaks the rule a little bit because this is, again, sci-fi. That's fine. But then we're introducing something in between that kind of follows the colors nicely and helps us transition into the warmer tones. I think it looks a lot more clean. Now, another problem that I have is I understand you have to put in your the Decagon logo, but I feel like it's a little obtrusive in, I think it's very obtrusive in your thumbnails. I wouldn't necessarily remove it, but if you have the chance, I would probably ask if it's possible to have a thumbnail without the logo. This is a great piece of work, and I see no reason why, like, I'm sorry, but like I see no reason why your portfolio is ignored other than it being difficult to read, because in here I'm missing work. Like I had issue paying attention to some of these, but when I look at this, I see very clearly that you have different pieces that kind of can be grouped in a way in certain categories. I think that makes sense. So then when it comes to all your portfolio, I would kind of do the same. First, I would do environments, then I would do props. So you can do your, again, your same order. And then if you finalize in some sort of like warm with greens, maybe try to do a second transition. So for example, you get your Nintendo's next, which has this like sort of greenish color, and then you're kind of starting off the gradient from the green here. You're connecting it to the green, and then you're going to the purple, to which, for example, you could start. Next would be the car, or maybe these contenders. I would actually group these two together, but in a way, you try to create that gradient in a different way. Now, I think yeah, it's just again difficult to read. There is so much text in your thumbnails that it's very obvious to me you're doing it to grab attention. When I look at, I don't want to do other reviews, but when I look at other portfolios that I really like, most of the time they're following this sort of cohesion. At least, they're doing like level plus props, level plus props. There's this studio that I really like. I'm just gonna bring it up. I mean, I think it's called the Vertex Guild. And it's very easy to look at this because all the thumbnails have one sort of tone. It's kind of gray, pastel, maybe a little desaturated, and then maybe you see a couple of pops of color, 1, 2, and then 3, 4 pops of color. I like it because you can see there's a style that these guys do, and then in my opinion, it makes it really easy to read the portfolio. Like each individual piece, it's like it's part of the website, part of the design, the intention of the design. And then, like, if you pay close attention, when it's broken up, this kind of feels off, right? Because they maybe were doing renders a different way back then. But then, like this, all of it is kind of following the same language. And so it doesn't feel noisy. Yours right now just feels noisy, muddy. So that's the first thing I would do. And again, like in here, you already did that very successfully. And then if you have the chance, remove the text from your thumbnails. These guys, they don't do that because, again, but they have just one text, the vertex guild, whatever, maybe, but it's always in the same place. It's, well, kind of broken up there, but generally it is in the same place. And I would say that when it's not in the same place, it kind of feels like a bit of a mistake in my eyes. With you, I feel like having the Decagon logo maybe a little bit more centered here would be a better call. And then every chance you have, like for example, this environment breakdown with games artist, I would remove this from the thumbnail. The same way I would remove this thing from the thumbnail, and I would remove the Dark Souls part from the thumbnail. And all the personal work that you have that follows the same, well, in case for props, sorry, like it's part of some professional work, so I'm guessing that the rules for posting include having that. I think it's in case of the contenders arena, it's very well integrated into the thumbnail. I think in case of the Decagon one, it's not very well integrated. So maybe I would center it and kind of try to find the same line, because right now you have multiple lines that you're, let's see, let's put it all in maybe one line here. So you are following multiple lines. Let's go back to 100%. And with those multiple lines, so you have one that is here and then like centered, then up, then corner. Then the ones that are centered feel good together. Okay, and then those are technically centered, but this one is lower. And then this one is kind of like more of a blocky. So it's not like you're not like it makes it muddy. Again, it makes it noisy. It makes it difficult to look and find information in this portfolio. It's like I don't know where to look. You've grouped together also your most noisy pieces. Like this is full of these sort of what are they? Yeah, like growths. And then you have like a very noisy pattern here, which is bricks. And then you have these very noisy, a lot of they're great pieces. Like I wouldn't remove them, but when you group them together, the first three, they add some sort of grit, some noise to your portfolio. And again, when we go here, there is information, but I don't think it's becoming noise. Exactly, Krim. I think if we could boil it down to one phrase or one sentence, it would be that, like, lack of harmony in the thumbnails. Like, great way to put it. And it takes effort. I think when I first saw this portfolio, I'm going to be transparent with you, okay? Because I think that's why we're here. When I first saw this portfolio, I was like, my eyes felt tired. I didn't want to look further into the pieces because there was like just too much to look at and nothing to focus on. So it didn't feel like a ride through the park. It felt like a trench and some people shooting at me with a shotgun. Like all of these pieces, they like went together, they're calling at you and they're saying, look at me, but I don't know in which one. Yeah. So these two are popping colors, so I can see why they can be. I keep being distracted by this. But yeah, generally that's what I would do. Try to be cohesive a little bit more with the style. And this happens to a lot of artists, and probably including me. It's just that because I think I have like a much cleaner, like everything's either black or white, and I don't use a lot of text. It just, I mean, my portfolio, it's not a portfolio, it's just like I said last time, a collection of pieces that, do from time to time, but no professional work, no nothing like that. So yeah, I just think like this sort of stuff goes a much longer way, because I don't feel tired looking at this. I have like the thumbnail is doing the work of like telling me what the piece could be, but it's not competing for my attention. It's not saying, which is a lot of people would say the opposite effect of what you're looking for with a thumbnail, because you want to attract people. But the problem is when we mix social media with portfolio, like it doesn't work. It's either it's a portfolio. Like you don't need to, you don't need to advertise it with flashing neons. The work needs to be good, and when the work is good, the thumbnail itself will be appealing. Yeah. So I think like everybody could agree that this just feels a lot more grounded and a lot easier to look at. Like I can like I it is like composition. Like um when you have a shot, let's go to the, like when you have a shot and you have your lights and shadows like kind of helping you navigate the the image. So this composition now, this gradient from cold to warm, is helping me navigate the portfolio a lot better. We spent half an hour with this. I think it's such an important thing for some portfolios, especially when we do realistic work. There's usually a lot of noise, a lot of details, and there's no place for resting of the eyes, which is a thing that with composition is extremely important. When everything is detail becomes noise. So I think that's going to give you a great boost. And then, I mean, I can't guarantee you that in the first place, sorry, somebody is going to even open the link to your portfolio, because that is also one of the struggles people are going through right now. It's like your CV doesn't even make it to a human or something. So, but if when it does, the discarding of that profile is going to be a little slower. What studios are looking for nowadays is people like you. I don't have a question that your portfolio is valid or it isn't. Your portfolio is perfectly good. Um, I would I would hire you as an environment artist. I would hire you as a props artist. Especially because you provide good breakdowns, good explanations of what you've done. Um, yeah, and generally, good technical breakdowns also, which are really fun to see because they're made on good models and yeah. So you don't have to follow this order. Okay, you can adapt it a little bit. For example, if your newest work is the bus station and then this, you could start with the warmer tones and then follow up with the colder ones. But yeah, like as I said, I would I would I would not think twice. I would hire you as an environment artist. Like I see good breakdowns of like everything pretty much. You're very versatile. Um very very versatile. You know what you should be looking for. You're telling me that you're looking for scale and proportionate scales and so on. You have good materials. So, yeah. Maybe maybe one thing that like confuses me here is like why are the bricks so huge? Is this a very small human? Is this to scale? I don't know. Like, is this a giant living here, or I don't know in Dark Souls, but like these floor feels like very big to me personally. Maybe it's the size of the details, or maybe I'm like comparing it with something that I shouldn't be. But generally, it looks good. But yeah, maybe the distribution of the sizes could improve, but like that's more of a thing for a future piece. Like you have in my in my opinion, when you look at a piece like this, like I don't necessarily want to be looking at the floor. Or sorry, I don't want the floor being the king, the thing that's drawing the most attention. So in this case, because the floor slabs are really big, they're kind of the compensation of the detail size is feels off to me. But again, the super small thing, just to keep in mind, you know. But then from this shot, maybe it improves a little. It's just that I don't know. Maybe it's the choice. Like square tiles, I think where I come from, they're usually smaller. These are on tiles. I know they're like probably slabs of rock because of perfectly squaredness. It just feels like tiles to me. But it's a great piece. So again, answering your question, like I don't know, if I were a studio, if I were hiring for a studio, I would look for someone like you. So you're not, I think, like together with that, with the organization, the problem that you have is the problem that everyone else is having. You know, the competition is very high, and I don't see why you couldn't be in that competition. Don't be scared to go, like if you still have these scenes, don't be scared to do a quick and easy, like maybe spend 1 week per scene trying to up-res these. Like I know you know a lot more about lighting than you did 4 years ago. If you still have these scenes, don't be scared to go back. It's a quick win. A lot of people think, you know, that's because it's settled, it's closed, and now to the new stuff. But like if you were to recycle one piece, if you wanted to remove this one in order to add a new one, that would take you a couple of months to create a good environment. For example, on this scene, I think this is completely outdated in a lot of areas, but it's not outdated in modeling, detailing, texturing, and so on. In fact, like this is a great scene on the ambient occlusion pass. Sorry, or yeah, whatever. Um, it's just like when you add the color, the lighting, it it doesn't feel so good anymore. So maybe some quick going in, balancing some of the tones, creating a better lighting, working with some effects here on the skylights, that would do a lot. And again, in a week, you would have a recycled piece that is good, um, and it would bring your portfolio up quite a bit. Same thing for this one, same thing for this one, and same thing for this one. This is good, but like the shadows are, you know, Unreal Engine 4. um, I know you know a lot more about lighting than you did when you did this scene. It's great. You have great colors, great compositions, great level building. But again, like you could up-res this really, really easily. Not even a week, but just give yourself that week. And when you do that, again, you're gonna end up with um, like an up-res collection of your current portfolio, which is showcasing great skills, but maybe it does give the message that these pieces might be outdated. Again, here you have good storytelling, you have good breakdowns. Well, goes a little fast, but maybe you could redo this. And what I'm trying to say is just don't be scared to go back and get some pieces, re-render them with what you know now. It goes a long way. It's quick wins. So quick wins. Does that make sense? Normally, it could take you a couple of months to make a level, maybe even 6. But then in here, we're just aiming for those quick wins. Those sort of like low effort, relatively low effort improvements. And when it comes to props, probably this is my favorite. I don't think this needs like a re-render or nothing like that. But I would give it more protagonism. Your thumbnail doesn't show the goodness of this. So since you like orthographic views, like 100, like maybe 250mm lens, what I would do is show the whole truck in the thumbnail, maybe do more of a front, like mostly front, but a little bit of the side of the truck to kind of showcase all those details that it has. And it's going to be a little bit better as a thumbnail. You probably like this, but it's not telling me anything regarding your skills. Like, yes, it's a complex hard surface model, but this isn't new information with like everything else you have. And then, yeah, these shots are much better. The individual prop shots are a lot better. Your scene is good, but I think it's noisy in a way. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's too much post-processing. It's definitely too much post-processing. And that post-processing I'm not seeing here. So in here I'm seeing the prop, which is at the end of the day what you want to show. You want to show the prop. And I like the hands shot. And then the breakdowns and so on. So I'm not sure I would include the scene. And that kind of goes against some things that I do, but yeah, it's somewhat distracting. And as you can see, I cannot see everything on, like, I have to scroll down and makes it difficult to navigate. And that's pretty much what's defining the feedback for your portfolio is it's difficult to see. For these guys, I would have one in the thumbnail, not the two guys. So something like this, the black one, you cut it square, and then you have more object. Because right now you have a lot of empty space on this thumbnail. And on a lot of your thumbnails, there is a lot of empty space. This one is probably the best one. I still would change it a bit. But like, and this one's good. It's just too zoomed in. But yeah, the square aspect ratio sometimes is not very easy to work with. But as a thumbnail, if I may, as a thumbnail, I think that works a lot better. Let's be quick and dirty here. Right? And then I know I shouldn't. I am very rudimentary when it comes to the use of Photoshop. A lot of people will be like, press Control Shift Alt, whatever. This is my way. Whoops, sorry. And then, yeah. So if we look at this as a thumbnail, I think it's a lot more effective. Even I would like go a little larger, something more like even if you cut like down a little bit of the arms or whatever. Maybe something like this, and then, whoops, sorry. maybe you could angle it a little more, you could twist it a little more so that it fits. But like when you have more object, on the thumbnail, it's going to be readable, much more readable. So I think as a thumbnail, that is more effective. It cleans it up. And if you pay attention, it's going on with most of your pieces, your props. See, like 3 of them, more difficult to see. And then the consoles is probably the most, like the biggest offender. And you can do some, some fun stuff. You don't have to have the whole object in there. You could crop a bit, maybe have some little bit of that's probably too much, like too zoomed in. Why don't I get this out of the way? Maybe something like this. I got again. Like as a thumbnail, that is a lot more effective. And then when you go in and you do that with all your work, for example, the demon, you grab these and you make that your thumbnail. Not only it's going to feel a bit less empty, which is also one of the things that, funny enough, is kind of contributing to my perception of noise. But like, definitely that is an improvement. And then obviously the order. So yeah, I would start there. Get rid of this shot. Or if you're gonna keep it, don't have it before this one. I think this one's a much nicer shot. And that's kind of good, but you're showcasing your textures, your materials, then like you're showcasing more models, and then you're showcasing textures and materials again. So it's about that flow. It's about that gradient. How do you apply this to environments? I mean, you could do the same. You could just grab this and create like more of a cropped in showcase. I don't have anything against these thumbnails other than the text though. So maybe it's not even that important. But sometimes that mix of social media and portfolio in the thumbnail is a good thing. The problem is when we do it incorrectly. And this incorrectly, for me, it looks like, again, you're trying to draw attention with text, not with composition. So you're using like a name. A name as a way of, or text, as a way of like creating appeal for your piece. And it's just, unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. Appeal comes from our work. You didn't do that logo, so I wouldn't like make it so obvious. I mean, you can if you have to have it, you have to have it. But yeah. Okay. What else? I'm not sure there's much else, Leonardo. I think this is a lot already that you could do. And I think that, I mean, what the hell? Why is that all messed up? Is that only me or is that everybody? Yeah, anyways, I think feedback is not like a one-time thing. So next week, send me your portfolio on stream again and let's look at the improvement. Let's see how that looks. And definitely don't forget about the quick wins part. Like if you can grab, even if it's 4 years old, but if you can grab those levels and you can just like remaster them a little bit, I think you're like, even if it's in Unreal Engine 4, like even if you just have the Unreal Engine 4 level, but like I'm sure you know a lot more. You probably know, you have a more of a keen eye to certain things, like to probably, for example, not have so many VFX because you're kind of muddying up your shot, things like that. But again, quick win. It's gonna be a very quick win. So I think that's a good amount of feedback, readability, and generally more readability when it comes to the sizes of the thumbnails. Let me quickly save this. Before and after. And kind of do the same over here. Let me just push this down so that we can clearly see what pieces are. Cool. Do you need this, Leonardo? Should I send this to you somehow, or did you get the whole picture? My students get all my time. This is for everybody. This is not for my students. This is a thing I'm doing for the community. So my students have all day. We'll get a lot more in-depth classes on how to present the portfolio. So they will have all of this information. So don't worry. This is good. I think you shouldn't feel bad for my students. My students definitely learned a lot from this. So, yeah, we should all be, how do you say? We should all appreciate that you gave us the chance to criticize this and to go deep. So don't worry about it. I love the portfolio though. I'm a big fan of the work. You're doing great. So keep it up. Yep. So Anya, let's go with you. So I mean, already we can see that maybe those sort of colors could, be organized a little better. It would be easier to maybe see your level first, um, statue second. So this is more of the general picture. This is more of the specific. I would switch these two, the order of these two. Is Anya here? You're still here, right? Yeah. Good, 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 good. What are you struggling with specifically? you think? I would say one of the things is maybe, let's see, like it's clear that you're still studying and there's still stuff to learn. Um, it's great art. You have very good basis here on composition, lighting, and this I'm sure was like a very eye-opening piece in many ways. Um, I think we should be very transparent with ourselves on like what our intentions with our portfolios are. Sometimes our portfolio is good as a student portfolio. Okay, a student portfolio is that portfolio that pretty much is, other than um, a record of like a diary, more like how our progress is looking like and what we have learned, and kind of practice, get eyes on our work and so on. Like start to kind of lose that sort of stage fright that we all have. Um, and it's for applying to schools, and obviously having a chance to connect with people, start to build some sort of following, but those are more like secondary things. Well, the followers is more of a secondary thing. So I think right now, Anya, what you have is clearly uh, a student portfolio, and the work that you're going to have to do moving forward, although some pieces are, this piece for example is really good, but I can tell that there's still a lot to learn when it comes to texturing, material definition, imperfections, um, silhouette, many things. Like for example, it's just a straight line. There's no reason why this should be presented like this. We could have like maybe had a little bit more of a wobble, on the accordion, a little bit like this, but maybe in a more imperfect way. And while this might be good for like some sort of um, wireframe breakdown, it doesn't have that sort of wow factor of, wow, look at how interesting that silhouette is. So in a way, what I see in your work is that these were learning pieces. These were great learning pieces. How much feedback did you get on this work generally? Like, did you get your like other people's eyes in this work, and did they provide any feedback? Did they like I'm talking about people like me, like some sort of mentor, some person that would criticize on composition, or maybe some friend that is maybe a medium artist. Okay, you had a mentor. Okay. I think I think this could have easily turned into a much better piece with very minor improvements. Well, some minor, but I'm I'm trying to find my words, okay? This obviously, it's difficult to be this transparent, and it it looks good. You have a great base here. I feel like your color palette is off. It's very uniform, monochromatic almost. Um, and what should be hints of color. Let's go to the final one. Like, there's no depth, although there's the intention of depth, but I don't see that depth. It's very clear that there's nothing going on outside of this scene, so there's no world outside of here. Um, the lighting feels really flat. There's almost like no contrast. If, for example, I get this image and I put it in Photoshop and I start, for example, with some sort of histogram with like levels, I mean, I think you did a good job at like using the entire range of lights and shadows. But I think your dark tones here are coming from these parts here, like complete shadow areas that really don't affect the composition. They're just shadow areas because the light isn't hitting them. It's just not because there's like some sort of intention behind them being dark. So what do I mean by this? Let's do some sort of paint over here. Again, I'm very slow with Photoshop, so you're gonna have to forgive me. But it seems to me like you don't have like a focal point here. So in this particular case, maybe that focal point could be that sort of entrance area. Okay, so maybe some. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. When we work with color, it becomes difficult to see these things. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn this into a black and white image. And okay, so this is what you had. And it has a lot more interest when it comes to black and white. So yeah, that's funny. When this happens, it's generally because of the hues colors that you're choosing. So again, yeah, it just feels. I'm trying to analyze, find the word for it, but it just doesn't feel as good when it has colors. It feels weird. Then when you add your tones, you add a little bit of a better tone mapping. The color palette is off, yes, and then also like the point of interest is kind of off. Like there's no. Yeah, let's start from the grayscale, the grayscale palette. I don't think it lacks intent so much as it's just um like not the scene as a whole, I would say. So let's do this quickly because I feel like I'm struggling to find the words. But if, for example, I would get these areas here, like this sort of what should be maybe a grass patch, and I make it darker, okay, and I just make this sort of main path a lot brighter. Let's do something like this maybe. And then kind of in a way also break down the walls. So for example, these areas here of the wall also feel a little bit more dark. Something like that. And then also on this other side. And then in a way I could also make this like the whole second floor of this a little darker. Let's see. Yes. Let's separate these two layers a little bit. Okay, perfect. Let's do the best we can. Something like that. Maybe not so dark, but just so that they have a little bit more interest. And then maybe on the inside of this place, this palace, you have that sort of, you know, white interesting area. And maybe you make the frames also a little brighter. Let's make this maybe overlay. Yeah. Let's just do screen. And maybe again, like inside of it, you've got your interrupting features. So you're creating silhouette pretty much between your planes. Maybe went a little far with it. But yeah, like maybe some areas here like are not so well lit, or you have this sort of, I don't know, like a curtain, like a drape or whatever. Then the sky right now is like super non-photographic. If that even makes sense. When you shoot a scene like this and you have like your exposure set maybe for your midtones, I always expose for midtones, although depending on if you're using a digital or a film camera, you should do something else. But let's say you're exposing for your midtones and this is your midtone, the sky is going to be a couple of exposure units more exposed. So maybe it goes a little bit more like that. Let's crop this. It's kind of distracting me that. Yeah. And then interestingly, what you're generating, if I blur this off, you're creating a gradient. Darker, brighter. Okay. While as before, what you had is a little bit more of a flat. Can you see that difference? It's very telling. And then when we add the color on top, it's a lot. We can already add the color, and it's easier to see if we start to transform these maybe into, like, let's say some more of like an orangey clay-ish red. Obviously we will need to mask all of that properly. And then it's starting to come together a lot better. So we make this that sort of sky-ish blue, but not too much, just enough so that it feels like the sky. Maybe overlay. And then this part here, I mean, I don't think it should be necessarily darker. It could also be brighter, as long as it creates some sort of difference. I think brighter looks good the same way that maybe darker could look good. But when we add color, grayscale and color behave slightly different. If you study some photography, especially like the older times, the maybe 70s to 2000s, and what, like some sectors today of photography, some people say that only they only shoot black and white, or they only shoot color, because like the way they interpret tones is different, and it's a different type of photography, black and white and color. So when you're desaturating a scene to apply these sort of values, that could work, but also like be prepared to just having not so much having said, okay, that's going to be darker 100%. Be prepared to also say, that's just a different range of tones. So instead of taking these to the shadows, I'm going to take that to the highlight, if that benefits the color conversion process. So every time I do a level, I don't apply color. I work in black and white as much as I can. And as I drag that process as much as I can. So sometimes even I don't do base color textures. I just apply flat colors. And when I have finalized my entire composition and how everything feels and like determined like what areas do what and so on, like in terms of composition, then I start to add colors. And very frequently I feel like I broke my renders. Why? Because that color doesn't look so great anymore. But maybe you can also play with, let's see, like some bloom or whatever over there. It's fine. So now this feels a lot more balanced. Yeah. Okay. So the reason why I was asking if you got feedback is because I feel like there's no real intentionality when it comes to the composition. It's just put together. And for example, in this scene, you can probably detect very similar tones. So that's 27% brightness, and that's like 17, but like all around here, the difference is really small. So you're pretty much going on like a 20% difference on your tonality. So if I crop here and we get levels, you can see how all this part of the scene is pretty much condensed into just 25% of the spectrum. When we bring it to like 100%, we're upping the brightness. Okay, that's not the intention because this is an area that is in the shadows, but still being shadows, it can do a lot more than this. So for example, like if you brighten the statues somehow or darken them, I don't know, again, it depends. Those are going to stand out a lot more. Whoops. And I think this is not a mistake that you're making here. Some areas could be highlighted a little bit, like maybe those pillars, but the composition and the intentionality here is a lot better. You have a very good color palette, very safe, cold, warm sort of color palette. But like that problem has like gone away. But I'm not sure if that has gone away intentionally or because you were going from references or someone else made the lighting. But this is better, and I can see that this went through multiple rounds of feedback. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looks to me like this was, criticized a lot more. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, when a portfolio is lacking somewhere, it's telling me two things: that maybe the feedback wasn't there, so a lot of people don't look for feedback. You should always reach out to friends like, hey, what do you think of this? Can you give me like good pointers? I'm gonna close all of these and we're gonna do them next week. So not a lot of feedback. Yeah, and again, that distinction between student and pro portfolio. So and you asked the question, what's the difference? Like, how do I turn my student portfolio? Um, it could be coming from many different places, but who gives the feedback is really important, and who's helping you shaping up the work is really important. I think as artists nowadays, we kind of are too focused on work like going solo, being some sort of lone wolf, um, and not really rely on other people helping us get where we want, like where we want to get. Like I can do this, and in a way, when like what distinguishes a student portfolio from like more a portfolio that is aimed to be professional, or like in terms of like the results or what I can see, is polishing. A student portfolio is a lot less polished than a professional portfolio. That's just it. So how do I get that polishing? I think by getting feedback from professional people, or people who you admire as artists. They don't have to be professionals, because at the end of the day, the word professional comes from an exchange of money. And just because you make money, you're not necessarily a great artist. um but when you get the feedback, when you get the assistance, into making those right decisions, into working with intention, into developing that intent or intention that we were talking about the other day, intentional composition, intentional color paletting, things that, first of all, as an individual, they're really easy to miss unless you have like a checklist and you have a crazy good discipline. Even like the biggest professionals miss these things. That's why they have rounds of feedback and so on. So again, that's how I would do that. I would keep maybe like the formula that worked here that maybe didn't work there. And I'm not sure if I'm being cryptic or not. What I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I can just tell that. I mean, I'm gonna try not to reveal names or whatever, but I can just tell that there's a difference between the involvement of a professional between these two pieces, and they seem to be from around the same time period. So I don't think you are improving that much in 3 months. You are it's 3 months is there's room for a lot of improvement, especially at the beginning. But yeah, I think we all understand what I'm trying to say. Um, so that's the key. Feedback is going to be very important, because as a junior artist, again, like, you might think that you're going to take everything upon yourself to create those pieces. In every single production that I've been involved, and the one that I'm involved now, I always see the same thing, and it's like a numerous rounds of feedback for everything. Because I don't think that, like, unless we're developing some sort of creative piece, like we are developing our own creative vision, I don't think we should be taking all the responsibility for developing something. Sorry, motorbike. There we go. So, yeah, when we don't, like, what I'm trying to say is, when we don't have feedback, we do less, like, worse work. And when we have feedback, the quality is better. And what gave it away, asks Grim. The Just the quality. Like, any it's like I'm throwing so much dirt to whoever feedback you hear, but whoever feedbacked here, either maybe the system that, like, maybe you had like limited access to feedback, I don't know, okay, like, for some reason, um I think you didn't receive, like, you didn't get your eyes on this piece enough to bring in the extra 10%, because at the end of the day, that's what this feedback is going to do. You're going to do 90% of the work, and that extra 10% of the work that's going to take that piece from good to great, that has to come from someone else. And I don't think you got your pieces seen enough here for that extra 10%. And in this case, maybe you did 80 and you took it to 85 thanks to feedback, but yeah. I think the individual elements are good. They're very good, but the composition just doesn't have that specialness that I think you would want to look for. Do you think I should go back and improve the pieces that are worse? No, I think not, because I know that you're studying with me now, and this, in your case, this is not a quick win. This this is more than a week of work to make it look better. It's I think it's better that you just focus on the future. Like, you understand that this was good for practice, but like, in order to do it better, you're gonna have to get into resculpting props, because, for example, the grain on this wood, in my opinion, feels too realistic for the general style. Uh, when I say too realistic, I'm meaning it's too crisp, even a little noisy. The end breakups are great. I love them very much. They're super good. But this feels, it's a mix between low resolution and like sharp. When you sharpen pixel art, like, not pixel art, but like a low res texture, and you get something like this. So no, you should not go back to this, because I also know that you can already do better than this, and you're going to. So just leave it in the past. The advice out there is so tough to parse. I was told to not use the help of others to make absolutely everything in the scene myself, etc. Recently, I've been told that it's okay to use, let's say, Quixel to populate a scene to make it a little more collaborative, get help, etc. As long as this is there, then you know. So Anya, just so that I finish with you and with the feedback. I think you're in the right path to being a great artist. This is great work, and I know that, like, when I know that someone's in the path of being a great artist, is when I can give them feedback, and they're gonna understand 100% of what I'm saying. So probably when we all saw this, like, you were the first one to say, I see the improvement and I know how I would do it. So next time you do a piece, that's going to be the improvement. That's going to be among sorry, many other things. There's going to be an improvement there. So for you right now, the aim is, of course, for everybody, is to find a job. That's why we're studying this. Um, but I don't think that should be your immediate priority. Your immediate priority is to keep practicing enough so that maybe in a couple of months you get to that place where you can start developing that portfolio. So it's not a right now thing. So that's why I for Leonardo, I gave the feedback of, like, just aim for the quick wins, because I think he's already in the professional level. Quick wins that will make his portfolio a little bit more appealing. In your case, I think it's more of a hard skills type of issue, not issue, the normal path that everyone goes through. And when it comes to that, like, it's just a matter of time, and keep practicing and keep the routine, the great routine that I know you're following, and so on and so forth. And so back to what Mladen was saying, there's a lot of really bad feedback out there coming from ego. A lot of unrealistic feedback that puts people in very weird positions. The first position is the position of being superheroes. The quality bar is very high, but there's no reason why you should get there alone. A lot of people say you should do if a level is shared, like, it's not so good as if you're doing it by yourself. As long as you use people intentionally, muscle, you know, some person is good for one thing, another person is good for that other thing, you're gonna be able to put your vision together. That's going to be very fair and realistic towards a production environment. um there's horrible feedback out there. My kind of rule of thumb goes through trying to understand what that person is saying. Is that coming from a place of ego, of like, I'm better than everybody and I did this by myself, and like you can show off, and like you can be like some sort of like, you can get cocky with your work? Then that's probably advice I wouldn't follow. If that advice is coming from, like, first of all, if it sounds too hard, it probably is too hard. And if it sounds unrealistic, it's probably unrealistic. There's always a point of exaggeration for everybody. Some people exaggerate a lot, some people exaggerate very little. Some people diminish themselves. They feel, but generally a lot of people give feedback from, they're going to raise themselves in the process of telling you what to do. No, you should hyper specialize because that's what I did. Cool. Yeah, like 15 years ago, maybe doing a scene all by yourself was a lot more feasible. Your rocks didn't have to be so detailed when it came to a silhouette. Your low polys were a lot easier to do. It was generally the average person could get to that quality because there weren't so many things to keep in mind. It's pretty much like the amount of polishing that needs to be seen nowadays is kind of mad. So in a way, like, trying to get there by oneself it's kind of difficult. It's very difficult, and it takes a long time. To make a level, like people say nowadays, they're going like, oh, but your levels should be like full play, like we want to see full playable levels. And sometimes people go as far as like, doing very big areas, very big and detailed areas. That takes maybe 6 months, and if you start to put things together, like if you're gonna do a one level by yourself, making every asset and every element by yourself, then it's gonna take you about 3 years to create, yeah, like 5 pieces of portfolio, 5, 6 pieces. So that's unrealistic. It's unrealistic for anybody to maintain. First of all, the moment that you get to the last piece, your first piece is going to be already quite irrelevant, or you're going to have to go through the process of upressing. So when it comes to advice, again, try to read, is this ego? Is this based on this? Is this person telling me something that feels maybe a little bit crazy, and they want to be like maybe applying old advice to new advice? It's just like the elders earned the respect, right? Nowadays I feel like we respect the opinion of people just because every opinion must be respected, or just because they go to a place. But that doesn't take away from people applying like some fallacies and stuff like that to their discourse. So like, just because it worked for them 15 years ago, it doesn't mean it's going to work nowadays. So advice is really difficult to follow because not always it's adjusted to the current circumstances. So do what feels right, what makes you proud. If you're doing work and you're cheating in a way, you feel like you're cheating, then don't do it. If you feel like it's acceptable because you don't want to be a rock sculptor and you're just going to get your sculpts from Megascans and you put them in, and that feels right because you want to focus on creating this building maybe, then you do everything else. But those rocks, it just feels like, why would I do that if I have the library, and the library is going to be better than what I do, like, then just do it, apply it. If you want to be an environment artist and know how to do props, but all you do is get Megascans assets and put them together, then in a way you're not doing what you need to do. But like, as an environment artist, getting stuff from Quixel is completely fine. And even better, collaborate with friends. Don't do the scene by yourself. Do it with two, three other friends. Get feedback from people that aren't those two, three other friends that are outside of the production of that scene. But when it comes to advice, it's really, really difficult to follow good advice. Some people in some places are saying, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's good to get there, but like people in important places generally don't necessarily have to be right. Like when this guy said like to fight COVID you should inject this bleach or whatever. So that's advice, but is that, like, we know it's kind of crazy, but like what types of advice are we receiving every day that comes from that same place of ignorance? So it's kind of difficult to follow advice because you have to be informed. Harry Marshmallow. I'm always going to crack up with that name. It's also very important to ask the right question when asking for feedback. Do you like my character is bad because everyone has different taste in art? But if you ask my character is scary enough, he's asking specifically what you're looking for. Yeah, but like we can deconstruct that. Like, is it scary for you? Maybe for a 5-year-old, it's incredibly scary and it's just a clown. Maybe for somebody who has phobia of clowns, it's incredibly scary. So in a way, it's like you have to build your own path, and the problem with advice is it can really mess someone up. Like bad advice is the worst thing to receive. So always, every single advice, including mine, take it with a grain of salt. It's not the definitive word, sorry. It's not a Bible. It's not like 10 commandments. It's just advice. Take it or leave it, but don't base your life around it, or like, unless it really makes sense to you. If it really makes sense to you, if it's something that you see yourself doing, do it. But yeah, if it's uncomfortable, it feels a little bit, maybe a little silly, unfounded, you know? Yeah. Or old school. Mlajin is saying, I think sometimes the people who are the most knowledgeable are ones not looking to spend the time giving advice to 1 in a million students. Let me read that again. Knowledgeable are ones not looking to spend the time given. Well, yeah, but what can you do about that? If people don't want to share, they're not gonna share. That's it. It's sad, and but like, again, maybe they're knowledgeable, but they have a huge ego. And then they're gonna give you feedback to praise their own. Um, but again, like advice is, I think like advice should never be taken like orders, as if you're in the military. So you got advice, you kind of got directions, but like somebody can say you should, like, to go to the main street, you should take that street and go left. But then you get to that street and go left, and there's like some pothole. Then you're gonna have to use your critical thinking. So never follow blindly. And so, in a way, that's what I see a lot of people do. No, I was told, to a lot of things, but like do full levels. I've seen environment artists who got, myself for example, I got hired to do environments and I don't have environments in my portfolio. Like each person will forge their own path, and that's just like by doing what you believe in. And yes, you maybe get feedback from somebody, but that feedback needs to feel solid and grounded in reality, not so much in, again, the past or egos. Thanks, Niao. Really loving those insights. First time tuning into the stream, and I truly appreciate and relate to what you're saying. Thank you, thank you. Cream is saying there's so many hidden variables in getting and giving advice: life circumstances, time, place, context, personality. Yes, yes. So there's no one size fits all, because I don't know how many game studios there are, and most likely all of them are looking for a different thing. I have no knowledge and a lot of ego. That's the perfect. Anyways, I have to go now. But it was great. Today was, I think, was really productive. Um, let's, I guess, let's do the promo now. Everybody's gonna go for the promo. Where is it? There we go. Okay. So obviously, I do this professionally. Also, we talked about my students and what we do with them. This is one of those things. If you're interested in learning about what I do, just check the website down there. Yep. And I'll be catching up with you next Wednesday, same time. All right. Have a good evening, everybody. I hope that was useful. I loved reviewing your portfolios. Anya, you're doing great. Leonardo, like, you're gonna get there really soon. And yeah, keep it up. Bye.